Thank you so much for joining the Private 25 review. And today, we start with the meditation, and I'll come to that in a moment. Like everything, like the private review and the Man Was Not Born to Cry starts to get a bit mixed up in a certain sense, but that's okay because it's all the same message, you could say. It's all the same Joel expression. And so I do differentiate a little bit, but not that much, and I think it's okay too. Now today, when I was listening to Joel, what he was sharing with us, what I'm going to share later on, something occurred in which another, instruction came through to share with you. So we're going to take a look at, very very condensed version of the laws of chaos, actually the illusory laws of chaos, because chaos has no laws. But the funny part is that of the great discovery is that Joel was actually teaching that, as I don't believe that. That is not how it is. That is not how it is. And that is actually really nice to use that for your own convictions that you might have, to discover, oh my God, it's actually what I'm thinking. Wow, I didn't know that. So it's quite revealing if you let that come to you. But that's to say the second part of where I want to introduce a specific tape. Okay, so starting with the meditation, that meditation came from a part of the Man Was Not Born to Cry series of talks, and but it's absolutely beautiful. So it is a bit more like a contemplation. So it's 3 minutes that we're listening to Joel. So we listen to it a couple of times and then see how we continue. So 4 minutes in between, 4 minutes of silence in between, and I think that's a great way to let this, what Joel is sharing, come really to you, like on a really deep level, you could say, and you start to come into the communication that it actually is giving you, because Joel speaks from a specific place inside himself. And he uses words, that's one thing, but what he's actually coming from has nothing to do with these words so far. Like, it goes way beyond that. And it's great to meet you there and to meet Joel there at the same time. So let's get started with the meditation.
When you learn to pray, you will learn that prayer is always without words and without thoughts. If you have ever believed that prayer needs words and thoughts, you are in the kindergarten stage of learning. Because the prayer that has words and thoughts is rarely, if ever, answered. And answered prayer really begins to be specific, definite, always, only when you learn to pray without words or thoughts. How do you pray without words or thoughts? By knowing the truth. What truth? Do you believe that God is omniscience? That means all wisdom. In other words, do you believe the Master when he says, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink? Your heavenly Father knoweth that you have need of these things. If you believe that, then immediately you can stop all thought that is aimed at telling God anything. You don't have to tell the God who already knows your need. Therefore, you can stop thought on that point. Do you believe that God is omnipresence? That means present where I am. If you do, you don't have to speak to him, because he's already closer to you than breathing and must be reading your thoughts before you think them. Even before you speak, I will answer. And do you believe that God is omnipotent? Well, then what do you want anything of God for? There isn't any other power to use God on. Now what do you want God for, and what do you want to tell him, and what do you want to ask him? He is already omniscience, the all-knowing, who already knows your need. He's already divine love, whose pleasure it is to give you the kingdom without your asking. He already is closer to you than breathing, and he already is the only power that's operating, for he is omnipotence. And now what is really left to say or think when we go to God?
So yeah, we are in a continuing prayer. Obviously, it's like we're in a continuous prayer. If you are aware of it, you are in a continuous prayer. And so Joel expresses this really beautiful in one of the talks of the Private 25. It's the 1959 Chicago Private 25 class. And he says that exactly. It's like, okay, there might be looking at as if it is like people here in this room, or people here in this online class, or people here on the street that might look like say a number of people. It might look like that. He says, but I'm only dealing with God. I'm only dealing with God, nothing else. It's like there's only one thing going on and nothing else. However I try to deny it, for instance, like, or as an idea, like however I try to deny it or differentiate it or split it up into different people with different ideas, different goals, different whatevers, different interests, or whatever I think I see, like in the recognition of the process that is taking place in you, in coming to know yourself, being one, you see there is no such thing as a diversity or a number. Like there is no number. There's just one, there's just one. And so that's great. So the interesting thing is that when I studied this part of the tape where Joel is talking about numbers, it was like almost like you can hear something resonating. You have a memory somewhere, but you don't know exactly what it was, but you know it's exactly telling you the same thing. Now this is this came to me, like I didn't really have to look for it at all. It came to me immediately. See, the great thing about a continuation in prayer and a wordless prayer is that everything falls into place. So it's like I got great helpers. You of course, since your mind is open, you can receive, say, the help of the helpers. And so Joel is always around, apparently, and Master Teacher too. So I listened to just 1 minute of Master Teacher, and he gives a summary of the 4 laws of chaos. The illusory laws, because it's like laws of chaos, because chaos has no laws. That's why it's chaos. But really interesting to hear them and seeing that they absolutely relate to what Joel is sharing. So that's why I copied them into one of the sheets that I'm going to show you to express this, to make it clear what I discovered. You know, it's like, wow, this happened. This is so great to remember, because it takes away the mist, or the fog of denial, of in fact believing what you see. That's where it comes down to. And so today thoughts like that came to me, also in this way, in a totally different say association, because it's an associative idea, but it's interesting to look at it. And that is this: like, if you see what you do the things for, in your daily activities, what you do the things for, and where they are related to. Now, if you take a look at this, it is really interesting. You see that almost every activity that you do in your daily life is based on a false idea about yourself, namely that you think you are this thing. So this thing needs a place, a house. It needs a place to stay, or a bed, or it needs food. It needs a location, a street. It needs internet. It needs a telephone. It needs to communicate, like communicate with someone else, another body somewhere. And if you look at it, it's like almost all your activities are based on this idea that you think that you are this. Right? So you're not always aware of that. At least I'm not. Like, I'm not always aware of that. So you think that you're this. So you think that you need to take care of it. So you think you need to eat food. So you think you need to rest. So you think all kinds of activities that you do during the day to confirm, in fact, this thing is you. Well, none of that is so. But it's okay. So we deal with it. Like, it's all part of the process, and it's going to be used, don't worry, like, it's going to be used for your awakening. That's all inclusive. So you don't have to not do all these things and just think you're not that, because that's the same idea. But anyway, it was just like an illustration of how much of your activities are related to this idea that isn't actually you at all. So that gives you an idea of the immensity of the illusion that you made in which you see yourself. So, yeah. Okay, so continuing on, I'll first show you the 4 laws of chaos. Laws of chaos, I have to say, because it's too much fun to not take a look at it. It's like, yes, I want to take a look at this. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. And then I'll come back to what Joel is sharing in the Chicago talk of 1959, the illusory laws of chaos. So one of the ideas is, and this might sound very familiar to you, is that there are separate people. There are separate truths outside of you too. It's like people can have their own truth. This is true for me, that is true for you. There's separate people, so also there's such thing as separate truths. This is one of the things in which the chaos that you are perceiving as a human being in this world might encounter. Like, you might see that, of course, everyone has a different idea about himself. Yes, of course, they're separate people. Like, we live with 6 billion people on this planet, so there are separate people, yes. Like, well, wait a minute. So there are separate goals. Each one has his own goal, and goals can conflict, and so it's a reason to defend yourself and to attack each other and to look for compromises, to do this and do that. But at least you can confirm, yeah, they're separate goals. I have different goals than you, and you think that is normal in the human ways of doing. So then there's another one. It's like your cause, like the origin of you, which is God, must be conflictual. Well, since you experience conflict, it must come from God or from your brother, of course. But yeah, that is, God is your cause, so God must be conflictual. This is what you believe to be true if you don't know who you are. It must come from God. So you have every reason to attack God for it, or to be angry at God, because he actually gave that to you. This is what you think as a human being, not knowing who you are and what God is. So then the fourth law is this: there must be more than love. Since there can also be conflict, and since there can also be opposites, there must also be a solution to my problem. And you keep believing that and looking for it. So these four are the basis of human thinking. Thinking that they're separate people, that everyone has separate goals, that your cause must be conflictual, that there must be more than love. You think there must be more than love. There can be such thing as conflict. There can be such thing as lack, limitation, and disaster and disease. Like, well, you gotta admit, oops, I press buttons here. You gotta agree with me that is so. It's like that is so in your human experience of yourself. So this is, to me, very interesting to take a look at, because it comes back into all the conflict that you're experiencing, or the moments that you forget about that there is only one goal, and that there is only one source, and that there is only one of us. So remembering that, you feel like, wow, that brings me back to my peace, to my source, in fact, to the peace and quiet that I know myself to be. But then another time you forget about it and you step right into these laws in action that are actually no laws at all. And so that's why I say it's like it's illusory laws of chaos. But very interesting to put it next to what Joel is saying, because Joel does a great job in bringing that together too. I'll show that to you here. This one here. Now, apparently, he was with his private 25, so apparently I see 25 people. But spiritually, I know that there are no people. There is only God. The life of God is here. The mind of God is here. The soul of God, the spirit, and even the temple of God, which is your body. Whatever that body is, because Joel tells you it's not that physical thing that you think is you in another tape. Like the temple of God, which is your body. The temple of God is your body. It's not your body. So that's actually the shortest way to say this. Now, apparently there appear to be people in this online meeting. So apparently we sit with, I don't know, 10, 9, 11 of us. We sit here, or 12, Oliver. We appear to be separate people listening to this, joining in this, and seeing something completely different. It has nothing to do with this setup. It has nothing to do with the separate entities that appear to be listening with their ears, or having their own goals, having their own lives, having their own No. So you can say, like, when we come together, when we have a moment together, when we actually realize the truth of us, when we actually realize that there's only one of us, we are entering into heaven, into a space, you could say. It isn't even a space, but you enter into an awareness where you can experience just that and know that to be true, and know that to be the only thing that is happening. And that is what Joel is offering us. Like, that is what Joel is showing his 25. There's only one of us. There's only God. There's only Spirit. There's only the temple of God, which is your body. It's happening in you. It is you, in the realization of your oneness with God, with one another, but there is no others. So, in fact, coming into the realization of our oneness in God. So this is then finally, say, putting down these laws of chaos to rest. Like, no, there are not separate people. No, there's not separate people. No, there's one of us. What happens to you is what happens to me. What your goal is, I join in that with you, recognizing that we only have one goal, one source, one heart, one mind. In that we can communicate directly, instantaneously together. We don't need anything for that. In that we realize that there is only one goal. Our goal is God. Like, we have only one goal, God. We have only one being in God. All the separateness dissolves into that. This is where healing can take place. Suddenly, even the physical expression of myself can change because I receive this recognition. It is literally given to me, that recognition, just like we saw in the meditation. God loves to give that to you. He gives you the kingdom. He gives you the kingdom because you're one with him, and he is the love that is. He's not something else too. So you don't have to ask anything, you don't have to request anything, you don't have to consider anything for God. You don't have to tell God how to come to you. You don't have to do all these things that you, one day or another, you will pick them up to use them for a moment, and then you put them down again when you're done with it. But it's like the direct communication with God is right here. It has no opposite. There are no different laws. It is just God is my source. That is my experience of myself. The rest is gone, is over, is not what it appears to be. No separate people, no separate bodies, no nothing like that. As far as I'm concerned, Joel says, this is just another confirmation. As far as I'm concerned, they're not people. They are not people. It is now a group, like Joel was talking about, the housewives. I don't know how many hundreds of housewives that came to a lecture of him. So as far as I'm concerned, they're not people. It is now a group that has come together. That is the appearance. My answer is no, I'm only dealing with God. God alone is the life here, no matter how infinitely it's expressed, like infinitely expressed as individual consciousness. But it's all the same stuff, like we're all made of the same stuff. No matter how many times it is multiplied, it's God, it's still God. It's still the one life. It's still the one law in operation in this place, in this room, in this class, in this meeting. One law in operation. the law of God. In that, all chaos dissolves, all differences dissolve, all appearances dissolve, all conflict dissolves. You have the appearance of numbers, but you have the realization of one. God is one, and only one is here. There's only one selfhood. That's my selfhood. And my selfhood is your selfhood. And the truth about me is the truth about you. See, and Joel covers here the laws of chaos. he does cover it. So I'm coming back to those one more time in a moment. It's like, no, there's only one of us here. There's one God, one truth, and not because he says so, but because it is. Like there are not different truths. So when you think, well, that's not what I think. I think differently about that. Well, let it go. Don't be in opposition to anyone. It's like truth is true. It is not necessarily what your neighbor is telling you, but the truth is true. It has nothing to do with a conflict with someone else. No, truth is true. It has nothing to do with individual opinions or individual ideas or individual other craziness. Like, it is total craziness to keep holding on to separate ideas, separate truths. That is the total insanity of humanity. So awesome to discover, awesome to dive deeply into the rest that is given in seeing that there's one goal, one God, one truth, and nothing can take that away from you. It is in you, and it's completely connected with every aspect of your reality, of the reality that is you. Every aspect of creation. I always love to use that word because then creation is creating as we speak. It is not static, it is dynamic, and it's infinite. So these are the attributes of that. Infinite. Creation. So it has nothing to do with time, it has nothing to do with differences in location or time or space. None of that. And that's totally comforting. That is so beautiful. So here are the laws of chaos one more time. Just we saw this. So there are separate people. Thinking that there are separate people is one aspect of chaos. Thinking that there are separate goals. Thinking that God is conflictual because you are experiencing conflict. Or God can oppose you. There must be more than love because there must be a solution to my problem that I'm perceiving. Not realizing that, like, it's literally impossible for you to have a problem. If you know who you are, it is impossible for you to have a problem. Since like bringing it back to the meditation or the contemplation of today, you cannot have a problem. Like God already answered before you thought about the problem. God is one with you. It's like there's no opposition. There's no God opposing you in your projects and your plans. Nothing is opposing you. There is also not such idea as a separate thought or a separate goal. So when you feel that something is not working, you're probably trying to achieve a goal that isn't one, but it's like your private goal that you want to achieve. Or, like this. It's like you think you can be separate from God. That's why you can experience a problem. If that problem is solved because there is no separation from God, you cannot have a problem. So when you have a problem, because you will experience one at a certain point, like as soon as you experience a problem, you know where to go, since God is your source, and your source, your true source, doesn't know what conflict is. It only knows of oneness, and it only knows of giving, so it cannot take anything from you. So there's no such thing as lack at the same time. It is giving you everything. Well, I thought it was pretty amazing to put this together, like to have this come together in this talk. So like Joel touches three of the 4 laws of chaos, like in fact showing you the other side of it, that there is no such thing as chaos, that there is no such thing as conflict, that there is no such thing as separate identities or people or numbers of people or peoples, even that. There's no such thing as an opposition in goals, in reality. So what you are perceiving as a conflictual goal is illusory. It is not the truth about you. It is not the truth that you are. I just love it. It is just like this is a continuous possibility to stay in prayers, like pray without ceasing. Stay right there. It's like bring it right back to source, all of it. Like bring it back to source. Wait until you feel your connection with source. You feel light coming into your mind. Stay with that, instead of trying to solve anything in your apparent like conflictual dream. A conflictual dream is what the denial is. A conflictual dream must be illusory, because there's no such thing as a conflictual God. See I sickness, see I limitation. There is no such thing in God. I come back to source, to connect with my source, recognizing that what I'm seeing can never be the truth about me, so it cannot be real. And so I will see that completely in a different light altogether. When I allow like one little spark of light to enter into my mind, to have this being undone, this illusory state of being, of mind, of perception, to let that dissolve by the light, let the light shine that away. See, but it's like praying without ceasing. So this is my continuous relaxing act of letting go, releasing, returning, remembering. It's not a doing, it's a remembering. It's like, oh, yeah, here it is. Oh my God, yes, of course there's no conflict. Oh yeah. If I forgive my brother, I feel so much better. I suddenly realize I'm one with him. Oh my God, how could I ever forget that? I'm one with my brother. How could I forget that? That's all right. So praying without ceasing. Yeah, I love it.